Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. All the viewers are smarter than the average bear. We're covering climate and national news, international news. A bit of a different take. Hope you're all ready for that. You can tell that it's quite a bit cooler here because if you notice that the speed of my intro music sometimes changes. Sometimes it's a little slower sounding. Sounds a little warped. Are you talking about, what are you talking about? Scratching? Are you getting the cracking?
Check, check, check. The volume is low. Is this better? Is the crackling gone? Please let me know if any of that is fixed. Thank you for letting me know. Is it better now? Great. That's a StreamYard thing. What I was trying to say is, if you notice that the intro music seems a little faster and a little peppier, it's because it's not as hot. Whenever it's hot and my computer's running slow, the intro music seems to slow down with it. All right, great. Okay, we're going to cover a few things today. Thanks for being here. Thanks everyone for showing up. I appreciate you. Please do not tip on Rockfin right now. You could probably add that to YouTube too, but I mean, I don't know. If you want to tip on YouTube, that's fine. But I really prefer if you just tip me directly. If you're going to tip today or contribute to the show, please use a direct donation link. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, coffees. They're all in the description box. But can't seem to get my Rockfin tips, and I've heard it confirmed from another source that the other channels are not getting paid either. So it's not just me. For a minute there, I was like, well, maybe it's just me. No, it's not just me. But until they let us know what's going on with the tips, I'd prefer if you did not tip on Rockfin. Until I can assure that I will actually receive those tips. So, Cash App is great. Cash App totally works. All those links are down below. Zelle totally works. All those links are down below. But I'm a little frustrated because I actually had that money earmarked for some bills, and or for a bill, some bills, and yeah, no, that's putting me in a spot. Which is not great. All right. Enough of that. Francine came in hot, but has already been downgraded. Power poles snapped. Buildings were damaged in Houma, Louisiana, after Hurricane Francine's eye wall moved through Wednesday. Want some sound?
This, again, this is kind of a common scene that we're seeing for sure. You can see the dramatic look at that right now as we're getting the sparks coming off those power poles.
So the chat is working for everybody today. I think it was because of the topic. Obviously, I probably should have put up. We're talking about pine cones today, right? Big pine cone, and then we could, if I whatever. I'm sure it would have brought in all the pine cone people. Anyways, whatever. Yeah, apparently on certain subjects or on certain days you can't chat. It's weird. Francine weakens to tropical storm after slamming into Louisiana coast. Category 2 hurricane left trail of flooding and wind damage, including 6 to 8 inches of rain in New Orleans. I did hear that somebody was getting flooded out on my social media. I saw a few people saying they were getting flooding. Francine Center moved inland on Thursday after making landfall as a Category 2 hurricane and had weakened to a tropical storm and then a tropical depression, leaving a trail of flooding and wind damage in its wake. Francine will progressively deteriorate as it tracks across west central Mississippi into the mid-south on Thursday and Friday. Maximum sustained winds have decreased to near 35 miles per hour. But also, remember that what happens nowadays? What's up, Rockfin people? How are you? I see you watching on Rockfin. Thank you. Rumble people, I don't know. I can't see the stream. Looks like there's some people on Rumble. Rumble people, thanks for watching. Of course, whatever platform you're watching on, please like the video, please share the video, please subscribe if you're not subscribed, etc., etc. Oh, what was it? Osama's over on Rumble. Cool. I'm just saying, what happens these days is that these storms tend to linger. So they'll hit as a hurricane, and then they'll kind of just keep floating up through whatever trajectory they're on. And they seem to have a tendency to revive depending on what the forces are doing. So we'll see if this actually just peters out or if it continues. Right? Like, so what happens a lot of times nowadays is that a storm will hit Texas or Louisiana and then keep on traveling up through the mid-Atlantic and maybe even up into New York, Maine, Vermont. We've even seen that storms coming all the way across the continent and doing damage elsewhere. So that's the new normal, which is strange. I think this might be as a result of Francine. This is not good news here from ExxonMobil. There's a leak of some kind. ExxonMobil Beaumont in Texas has issued an immediate shelter in place for the Charlton Pollard neighborhood. Residents should go indoors, close and lock windows and doors, turn off HVAC systems, and seal gaps with wet towels or duct tape. Wow. They're not telling people to get the hell out as quickly as possible. I wonder if this is seems like it should be or could be storm related, but this is from September 10th, so a few days ago. I don't know if maybe we can get some more information on this, but there's no information given on why. They issued an immediate shelter in place. No explanation given. Oh, okay. It's been lifted. All systems are clear. There is no leak at the facility and no cause for further concern. Okay. So all is well. Don't worry, guys. They got it all figured out. It's just, okay. Very hinky. The fires in California were a raging. But it has suddenly cooled down a lot, and which is really great, and hopefully will help to contain the fires. Firefighters hope cooler weather will aid the battle against 3 major Southern California fires. Just playing with the views here. The views. Wildfires have threatened tens of thousands of homes and other structures across Southern California since they accelerated during triple-digit heat. And it was cooking. Man, it was cooking. I didn't know if I could take another day of it. It was rough going for a couple of days, but then like on day like 5, I was like, oh my God. I don't know if I can keep doing this. It was very rough. Firefighters battling 3 major wildfires in the mountains east of Los Angeles took advantage of cooler weather Wednesday as they slowly gained the upper hand, but not before dozens of homes were destroyed and thousands of people were forced to evacuate. California is now only now heading into the teeth of the wildfire season, but already has seen nearly 3 times as much acreage burned than during all of 2023. Another really interesting article. I don't know if I'm going to have time for it. The wildfires have threatened tens of thousands of homes and other structures across Southern California since they accelerated during triple-digit heat. No deaths have been reported. The bridge fire had to go up mountainsides, burn down slope, jump across valleys, burn across new ridges, and then make it down a slope again at least 2 other times in effectively 1 burning period. The full extent of the damage caused by the fires remains unclear. The 3 blazes are the airport fire in Orange County, which burned more than 35 square miles. The line fire in the San Bernardino National Forest, which was 18% contained on Wednesday and had charred 57 square miles. A suspect was arrested in that fire, saying arson is the cause. And the bridge fire burned 78 square miles and torched 33 homes and 6 cabins, forced the evacuation of 10,000 people. 33 homes is pretty major damage. Where did I see this other? I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this other article that I really wanted to find. And this is an amazing excuse me, an amazing photo someone took of the fires. nighttime view over Los Angeles. That's pretty crazy. Pretty nuts. Okay. We're probably going to go through stuff pretty quickly today, y'all. So, pardon me if the show is shorter than usual. This is Vietnam. Obviously, got completely whacked from a typhoon. Can't really see this. But these are people trying to hold these doors closed from the winds. Saw some other pretty insane footage of the waves coming ashore. But indeed, and no doubt, this has been, if you've been keeping score on your bingo cards, your climate change bingo cards at home. This has been a year of extremes, following several years of extremes. And it doesn't look like it's going to slow down or abate anytime soon. We're going to skip. Actually, here we go. Before we do that, very quickly, I want to look at this article that Denver sent the other day about we already kind of talked about it slightly. Growing key biomethane crop on peat emits 3 times more CO2 than using natural gas, finds study. There's been a rapid expansion in growing crops such as maize to produce biomethane as a cleaner alternative to fossil fuels to help reach net zero. But some of this increased cultivation on drained peat is emitting 3 times more carbon dioxide than it is avoiding by not using natural gas, according to a study by the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. The researchers also estimate the area of UK peatland used for cultivating maize, which is then put through an anaerobic digester to produce biomethane, has tripled since 2015, but they say the emissions resulting from draining these carbon-rich wetlands for agricultural use have been widely overlooked. The analysis focuses on maize and the UK. They're growing maize in the UK, corn? It seems weird. That doesn't seem right. The study team points out that any cultivation on deep drained peat will result in large amounts of greenhouse gas emissions. Well, yeah. Significant findings highlight the need to consider soil carbon losses relating to all. That is just weird to me. Relating to all bioenergy crops. Okay, that doesn't make any sense at all. Growing corn on drained peat in the UK. Who thought that one up? That seems extremely bizarre. You know what? Sorry if I didn't check this before I started the show. But does that sound like that makes any... I mean, somebody thought that was a good idea. I'm wondering who. You know? Seems strange. Are you guys cool on YouTube? Is YouTube okay? I can't tell. I guess it's okay. Oh, I can't seem to get into my YouTube studio right now. They're not letting me. That's weird. Come on, guys. It's not that difficult. All right, I'm getting bogged down here. Okay, come on. Not that hard. It's really not that hard. Oh, I didn't do it. It is on. Okay. All right, cool. Just checking something. My bad, guys. Excuse me. It's okay for you? Great. Significant findings highlight the need to consider soil carbon losses relating to all bioenergy crops grown on drained peat anywhere in the world in order to enable better decision making over green energy. Yeah. But again, you know, the upshot is a lot of renewable energy is not renewable. They basically chop down trees in the U.S. in the southeast, chop them up into little pellets and sell them to Europe as renewable fuel sources. And that's got to be good for the planet, right? Again, most of the things that they call renewable are not renewable. They're not good for the planet. They're not helping things. So always read the label. It was probably from the Bill and Melinda Gates Gardening Handbook. Growing maize in peat bogs and peat marshes. Yeah. Yes, salt liquor indeed. It just, yeah, most of it is not renewable. Significantly more carbon is emitted from drained peatlands than is avoided by not using natural gas. This is because drainage of these wetlands enable crops or trees to grow. To enable crops or trees to grow, releases carbon that has been locked up in their soils for hundreds of years. That's why. This released carbon is exposed to atmospheric oxygen, forming CO2 and resulting in significant amounts of additional greenhouse gas. Yeah. Big increase in production. The study estimates the UK area of drained peat soils for all maize cultivation. Again, I cannot wrap my head around that. It just sounds weird to me. Rose from 6,000 hectares in 2015 to 11,000 hectares in 2021. And they're doing this, they're growing the maize for bioenergy. Nobody got the memo that it's actually takes more inputs. Yeah. Nobody got the memo. Okay. Speaking of growth, well, let's see if they're going to let me play this. This is a kind of a cool little Instagram video about greed and waste and how much growth it actually would take to feed the people of the planet. And of course, we can do, there's lots of angles on this, but let's just listen to this. Can you hear it?
Tangibly has determined that for every person on this planet, actually more than every person, 8.5 billion people to abide by decent living standards, which are defined as shelter, hygiene, access to transportation. Basically, if you live in a stable household and have access to consistent food and medicine, what that life is like for you. This report deduced that it is possible for every single person on this planet to have all of those things with only 30% of current output, production, and energy use. So what the fuck does that mean? This means that all of the suffering that we've seen on this planet today and throughout history has been systematically manufactured. Basically, this is your concrete proof that scarcity is not real. It is something that is artificially created by the capitalist because the capitalist is insistent on hoarding resources to prevent humans who need resources for human existence to benefit from them. To put it in plain terms, there are more than enough resources on this planet right now to provide for everyone. We shouldn't have to do mutual aid. We shouldn't have to be walking past unhoused people on the street because we don't have any money ourselves to give. We shouldn't be having billions of our dollars in taxes going to slaughter other people in other countries while we can't even afford healthcare. I shouldn't have to grapple with the fact that a child probably had to die so I can even record this video on this smartphone right now. We have been socialized from birth to think that all of those things that I just mentioned are normal and that we should just not do anything about it because that's just the way things are and there's nothing new under the sun. And I'm here to tell you that that's bullshit. The only person who benefits from all of us collectively thinking that we have no impact on our material conditions is the capitalist. Not you, not your fellow man, not your family, not your friends, not your loved ones. The capitalist who will exploit you and exploit you and exploit you as long as you keep on chewing up and spitting out dollars. And so my main point is that this will continue indefinitely until we are all killed. Objectively, that is the truth. If it is not forced displacement by gunpoint by the state, then it will be the fact that they've created a world that is so uninhabitable for us to live on that we all burn to death or starve to death or drown to death. And I am not the first person to say this at all, whatsoever. It's just that every time somebody says this, they are written off as being dramatic, they're written off as exaggerating, they're written off as not having a basis in reality. But the reason I'm saying any of this is because I have actually the most firm rooting in reality and this material basis in which we live. And in fact, ignoring our material conditions is actually what has caused the hell in which we live to evolve into ultra hell. So if you made it to this point in the video, I need you to pause and think about how much of what I just said you actually digested. If it didn't make sense to you, I want you to start this video over and watch it again. And if it still doesn't make sense to you, comment your questions or DM them to me. Because the fate of humanity does not benefit at all from you being misinformed whatsoever. It is of the utmost necessity that every single person on this planet right now understands what I'm talking about. And it's not important because I'm saying it. It's important because it's true. So if you agree that you've digested this information, you're probably wondering, well, what do I do with this info now? Oh, well, I'm so happy you asked. You need to go to communistusa.org. That is a website for Revolutionary Communists of America. It is an organization that I'm a part of. You are going to read their manifesto, digest it, understand exactly what the stakes are and what we're up against. And then you're going to press that join button so you can get in contact with the communists that are already around you in your area because they exist. They do. And while you wait for a comrade to get back to you, check out the links in my bio. I have a
Okay. Good. You know, it's a message that needs to be said and heard. And so, you know, as she said, I'm not the first person to say that. It's been said over and over. And people, I mean, it's kind of like Welcome to Reality 101. And it's, you know, there was a chapter in the Ministry for the Future that basically said exactly the same thing. And there's lots of, you know, angles and layers to, you know, that equation that, you know, 30% of production would feed 8 billion people. 30% of the production we currently experience would house and feed and clothe 8 billion people. Sure. Would the 30% production still destroy the earth? Maybe. You know, a lot of people would say definitely, but I mean, it's a whole lot less. 30, you know, imagine 30% less wealth or 30% less production or 30% less resource extraction. You know, year on year, year after year. Not that, you know, just 1 year would be like, whoa. Remember, if you remember during COVID, emissions, everything shut down and emissions fell by a whopping 7% or something like that. It was like a whole 7%, which is, but in context, when they talk about lowering emissions, and we can tie emissions to production or resource extraction or whatever. Emissions is just another word for what we're doing collectively on the planet, or just another data point. But when they talk about lowering emissions to the point of like net zero, they're talking about stuff like 3% a year, 3.5%, maybe even, 5% would be just right. Like, whoa. So anyways, emissions went down 7% during COVID. I think that was the number, I guess. Last I remember. And, which again, in the scheme of things is hardly a blip. And it was just 1 year. But that 7% produced, some clean air, produced animals coming out to, animals kind of like nature area, natural areas and animals kind of revitalizing just from all that, just that little bit. But what I'm saying is imagine 70% reduction in emissions production, and you can probably just equals, GDP equals, whatever the economy, 70% reduction in economic activity, which, on an economist level would be, utter, it would be the apocalypse, and just 1 year of 70% reduction in economic activity would be literally the apocalypse. It would be like the end of humanity as we know it, that to them in their minds. But imagine that year on year on year on year, 70%, 70%, I'm not saying that sorry, scratch that. Not 70% year on, like every year it goes down 70%. I'm saying if we took the economy as we know it down 70% and then operated at that level for several years in a row, imagine the impact, which would be devastating to the economy as we know it, devastating to the finances of the corporations, devastating to there would be major upheaval. It would be like getting hit, the earth getting hit with a meteor or something. But for the well-being of the planet and the people, it might actually be a boon. Angel's Place. What's up, Angel's Place? Long time no see. In the future, we will not be global but local, and we will not have the resources to advance. And sure, creative experiments. Climate change will bring the economy down 70% anyways. Better start now. And Bella says 1 meteor coming up. There you go. Anyways, food for thought. It's been said before, and bears saying again, but and lots of people have had that revelation in the past. We got to do something. Join the Communist Party now. Make that change. Which I'm not saying you shouldn't do. I mean, we need pressure from somewhere. If anything's going to change, it's going to take pressure. But probably not going to come from people. Probably going to come from, nature itself. Or some other forces. But it'd be cool if it came from people, because then things might change. Things might change. Ain't nothing wrong with some pressure. Guys, if you like the show, if you want to support this show, if you enjoy this show coming to you for free on the every day, the the show could definitely use your financial support. There are lots of links in the description box of every platform I'm on. Please use those links to donate to the show. For the time being, please do not YouTube tip or Rockfin tip or even Rumble rant, because that just goes to some hole, and I don't even know where that hole is. I don't know where the end of that hole exists, so there's no way for me to actually get a Rumble rant. So just don't tip through the chats, people. Just tip through the direct donation links if you are of the mind to. And for the people that already do support the show financially, you know who you are. And I thank you. Gonna kind of round out with Whitney Webb outlining some things about, there's a lot of talk about CBDCs and how they're going to do it. And one theory out there floating around is they're going to kind of do it through Bitcoin. And RFK Jr., out loud on stage talked about, and Trump has talked about this too, I think. Well, they talked about this at the Bitcoin conference, that using Bitcoin as a reserve currency. Whoa. Didn't hear that one before, did you? Right. So in days of yore, it used to be gold was the reserve currency and the dollar was backed by gold. And now we have a petrodollar, which means that oil is kind of the reserve on which the currency has standing. But they're talking about using Bitcoin as a reserve currency, which is an interesting concept. This ties in with the idea that Bitcoin is kind of being taken over by all financial, that's why now they have ETFs on the stock exchange. And why it's being allowed to become like major currency in several nations, and why it's being given legitimacy in order to kind of co-opt it into something else. And so, it's a big rabbit hole to go down. But an overview from Whitney Webb: the biggest banks and cadre of spooky currency speculators have funded and now control most of the infrastructure underlying Bitcoin. Energy, chips, ISPs, and general crypto infrastructure, with the openly stated goal of having it be only an asset you don't and can't spend. The U.S. government and the small elite faction hold most of the Bitcoin. And once their financial control grid is complete, inflate its price through the roof. As Catherine Austin Fitts has said of the elite's plans, once you steal everything, you want to move to a disflationary system. These elites, who have a lot of ties to the Epstein network, hold so much Bitcoin collectively. And when currencies implode, which is something the currency speculators who back so much key crypto infrastructure have probably done in the past, pumping gold and silver, etc., instead would make too many other actors, including other governments like China and Russia, very wealthy, while pumping Bitcoin will make only a specific, largely U.S.-based cabal very wealthy. When they collapse currencies, they will buy up everything they didn't manage to buy up during COVID, and then install their new and beyond Orwellian financial surveillance grid in place, using Bitcoin as a reserve asset. Again, they floated this. Did you buy some silver below 25? Creative. I didn't realize silver had gone up so much. I forgot all about it. Anyways, the U.S. government, Silicon Valley, and Wall Street bankers who have economically and sometimes militarily waged war against much of the world are using Bitcoin for this and are buying up media influence to manufacture consent. As a consequence of the purchase of Bitcoin media, most Bitcoiners instead of being up in arms about it and putting momentum behind any potential workaround, are spending time shilling Tether and explaining away their overt partnership with the U.S. national security state, shills for dollarized debt, posing as anti-state and anti-bank. Unlimited Hangouts series, The Chain, by myself and Mark Goodwin, has been exploring these issues and more. New installment, and the spiciest thus far, drops tomorrow. So I urge you to go to Unlimited Hangout and go check out some of those articles. And I've been listening. She does a podcast with Mark on Rockfin, is where I have found it. That's pretty interesting. I've listened to a few episodes on that. We'll listen to this video, I guess.
There are only 21 million Bitcoin. There never will be more Bitcoin. When people want to acquire something, it has to go up in price, just like when an artist dies, right? People pay $3 million for some spray paint on bricks in a place in London because Banksy says he did it, right? So don't give me a story about there's no value to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is valuable because people believe it's valuable. That's the only reason the dollar has value. It's because everybody in this room thinks the dollar has value. Bitcoin as an asset class is the perfect asset. It's hard money. And that's something I believe you'll see. Countries hold Bitcoin. You'll see more and more companies like Mara, like MicroStrategy, like lots of other companies hold Bitcoin. You'll see financial institutions hold Bitcoin, and as soon as the banks in the US are able to custody and collateralize Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin will explode.
Well said.
Well, there you go. Custody and collateralize. Well, I wonder if they're going to let people, I mean, you know, I guess that would be good if you had some Bitcoin and you had a bunch of it, but she was saying, intimating that you couldn't sell it. You wouldn't be able to sell it. And we'll see. If you remember a long time ago, they confiscated everyone's gold, right? Gold was the thing you wanted to hold, and gold was the reserve currency. But then there came a day when they were like, well, if you're just a regular person, you can't have any gold. We're going to come take it from you. That was during the Depression. It still boggles my mind that they were able to do that. I mean, I would think that people would be like, wait a minute, that's my gold. Will today's discussion reference anything about, no, it's not going to reference the Bitcoin office. I don't know what that is. Bitcoin office? I want to know more about that though, Golden Monarch. So I guess I'll look that up. But if you have a link or something, some place where I can look up some information on that, I'd love to check that out. I don't know what that, I have no idea what that is about. Gold? What gold? Right. Well, and you can have Bitcoin in a cold wallet. You know, where I was going with that is, you know, what if they said, well, you can't hold Bitcoin, but if you can't sell Bitcoin, it doesn't matter if you have Bitcoin in a cold wallet somewhere. And obviously on the blockchain, you can trace, you know, where and how things are sold for now. Okay. Posting an article on that info in the coming day or two. You're on Substack. Okay, cool. Thank you. I'll check that out. Appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but I'm interested. Lastly, let's listen to Thomas Massey kind of calling out the bull. I know it's Thomas Massey. I know he's a politician. You may hate Thomas Massey. You may like Thomas Massey. You may not care one whit for Thomas Massey or about Thomas Massey. But this is a kind of a cool speech he has here. So we'll listen to this. It's kind of long.
And I would call on Mr. Massey.
Can we be honest with the American people about what's going on here? This is political theater. I'm going to call out both sides right here. It's all posturing, it's fake fighting. We all know where it ends up. This is Groundhog Day. I don't care if the Democrat is the speaker or Republican is the speaker. We always get a CR in September, and then we get an omnibus. Sometimes there's a twist on that. We might get the omnibus before Christmas, but if we're not good, it comes after Christmas. But that's what's going to happen. And in the meantime, it's political theater. You know, we've got it's good theater. We've got great writers. I wish they'd just come up with a new plot. It's the same plot every fiscal year. What should we be doing? It's already been discussed. We should have done 12 separate bills. We should have done 12 separate bills. But again, whether Democrats are in control or Republicans are in control, we never do the 12 separate bills. Why do we always spend at least as much as we did last year, and why do we never cut spending? It's because Democrats want to grow the welfare state, and Republicans want to grow the military-industrial complex. And we're eventually going to get together, and they're both going to go up. I guarantee it. And both parties are just fine letting the bureaucrats do their thing, which should be our thing, according to Article 1. Section 8 in the Constitution. We are empowered with these things. Most important of the things we do is the funding, and that's the big lever we have. You know, I've sat through now almost 2 years of hearings in this Congress where we've exposed lies at the CDC, shortcuts at the FDA, unconstitutional gun bans at the ATF, over-prosecution of January 6ers at the DOJ, targeting common citizens at the FBI, spying by the NSA, illegal mandates for livestock by the USDA, targeting plant vaccine or transgenic plant vaccine at the NSF, and censorship, the censorship industrial complex of which the NSF is part of, automobile kill switch at the DOT. Now, these are all things I think most Democrats are just fine with, this kind of totalitarian state that the bureaucrats are pushing on us. But Republicans at least pretend to be against these things. But what are we going to do this September? We're going to fund every freaking one of those things that we have exposed. That is the tool that we have, is the funding. Why are we funding things we don't like? We don't have to. Well, it's because we're addicted to spending. And this doesn't do anything about the addiction at all. So let me touch on one point too here that I think is important. Is, you know, a couple years ago, or a summer and a half ago, I suppose now, we did something where we allowed the debt limit to be increased. But as a condition of that, we said if you do a CR that lasts past April 30th, everything's going to get cut 1%. And that, to me, seemed like at least a little tinge of fiscal responsibility was creeping in. But now I notice that this CR, instead of going 1 year and giving us time to do the 12 appropriations bills, is going to go 6 months. Now, let me tell you what's going to happen because this goes 6 months. Number one, it ends in March 28th, on March 28th. Well, the automatic cuts happen on April 30th if the CR went past that. So that is exactly why the Speaker chose a 6-month CR, is so we don't have even the chance, a threat to this town, it's a threat of a 1% cut. We don't want to even, this is like T-ball. The 1% cut is on the tee, and Republicans won't even swing at it. So instead, we're going to do a 6-month CR instead of a 1-year CR. That sets up another crisis next spring where we can do another pretend fight sometime around March. And that fight it'll be the same fight regardless of who wins the presidency and who's in charge of the Senate and the House. And we're basically going to get pretty much the same result. But that's 6 months from now. In the meantime, we can kick the can down the road. All of these things that we've exposed and all of these hearings are going to continue to get funded. But wait, there's a bright, shiny object on this CR. I've never seen one of these. I have never seen a bright, shiny object attached to one of these must-pass bills. Oh, wait, no. It actually happens. There always is. A bright, shiny object. A bauble, if you will. A little something to get excited about. This SAVE Act. It's going to save us all, right? And by the way, this is good political theater. I do like this part of it, that we're going to see almost every Democrat cast a vote so that illegals can vote in our elections. I mean, that's pretty clever on the part of our speaker to set that up, make you all take that vote. But here's what he's going to do after you take that vote. He's going to take it off. The bright, shiny object goes away. It's Lucy and the football again. And the American public is all revved up. Yeah, we're going to get to save that. We're going to save these elections. We're going to stop the illegals from voting. Really? How are you going to do that in like 6 weeks? I think they're already registered if they're going to vote. Some of them probably already voted. This SAVE Act ain't going to save anything. And particularly because it ain't ever going to become law. It's a false promise to get all the Republicans half pregnant. And then you're going to get fully pregnant by the end of September when you vote for this CR. That is not going to have this, I mean, I hate to break this to you. I mean, the Democrats already know this. I'm not telling you anything special. I hate to break it to the Republicans. You ain't getting the SAVE Act. It is not going to stay on this bill. Why? Because we're going to cave. We're going to cave. Is it a fight worth having? Absolutely, it's a fight worth having. Make those Democrats say they want illegals to vote. Make them take that vote as many times as you can. And then make them go to the ballot box in November. But that's what it is. It's political theater, folks. We all know where it ends up. We've seen it. I've been here 12 years. I've seen it 12 times. I refuse to be a thespian in this failure theater. And with that, I yield back.
Pretty good stuff from Thomas Massey. He's just talking about, I mean, I just appreciate the unveiling of the theater of it all. I mean, he's talking about how this is not going to be overturned, right? This thing that the right might be interested in. I don't know. I mean, I'm not anywhere near a right winger, but I don't think that, people who are not here legally or not actual citizens probably shouldn't be voting in our election. I mean, come on. And that's not a demonized, immigrant thing. That's just like I don't think people should be able to, should be able to undercut, wages by working for less than, but that's what they want. They want people to be able to do that. That's why the whole discussion is a complete sham. The discussion is ridiculous around immigration because, they claim it's a problem. It's a big deal. We don't like what's happening, but, they actually encourage it and, and produce a lot of it, right? A lot of immigration here. They actually encourage it because either side can use it for various purposes. So they're not, he's saying they can. You don't have to show an ID to vote too. There's that whole thing about you don't have to show an ID, right? And there's people saying that making people show ID is racist, which is okay, but you have to show ID for everything else. There's a whole thing. Gene says non-citizens can vote in Costa Rica. Why would non-citizens vote in the U.S.? It's kind of a well-known thing that one of the upshots for the Democrats allowing so much immigration is that they can get people to vote. Hey, I let you into this country and I gave you some medical care, right? Gavin Newsom gives illegal immigrants, quote unquote, free a Medi-Cal, right? You can get Medi-Cal if you're an immigrant, but you can't get Medi-Cal if you're a working, citizen resident of California, right? If you make too much money, you can't get free healthcare. But if you just come across the border, you can get free healthcare. So that's a really great reason to come. Or you can get, you can get a free loan to buy a house and stuff like that, right? So this is actual stuff. And so, if somebody gives you that there and you're like, hey, we just asked that, maybe you go to the polls and vote for our guys. And they're like, oh, yeah, we can do that. Sure. You have to sign your name, be registered as a citizen, and signature of the vote, or the vote is invalid. But why would they? So if they can't, if they can't vote, why is there this thing in the bill? I don't know. Creative experiments. Maybe we should talk about that. I don't have time to really like go deep on this today. But there's been a lot of talk about like the Haitian immigrants and the pet eating and stuff like that. And there's been a lot of people doing kind of like analysis of this, and it's an interesting subject. So it's an interesting subject. Do I ever actually go and vote? Yeah, I do, Gene. Yeah. There's a list at your polling place with your name and your registration. Yeah, you can. Do you have to be a citizen to register to vote? Right. What documents do you need to register to vote? In most cases, you need a driver's license or a state ID to register to vote. If you do not have either of these, you may be able to provide other types of documentation, including a bank statement, utility bill, but the required documents you need to register vary by state. So this is saying you just need a driver's license or a state ID. Can you get that without being a citizen? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. You can get a driver's license and not be a citizen. So there's that. It varies by state. So I don't know. It might be easier in some states. It might be more difficult in other states. But my point is, why is this thing why is the SAVE Act even in this omnibus bill if it's not a thing? You know what I'm saying? Why is the SAVE Act in the omnibus bill if it's not a thing? Hold on. Let's get it real quick. I got to go, guys. SAVE Act citizenship voting bill. Hold on. Oh, I don't want to watch a video. I just want to. 5 things to know about the SAVE Act. Oh, come on, man. Just show me the thing. Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. SAVE Act requires voters to provide documentary proof of citizenship at the time of registration. Requires. Okay, why is this even a thing? So, for all you guys that know it all, why is this a thing? Why is this a thing being voted on? Requires voters to provide documentary proof of citizenship at the time of registration. Apparently, you can register to vote without being a citizen. Case closed. So I guess, I don't know. It's a thing that happens. So there you go. Both parties agree that voter registration should permit all eligible citizens and only eligible citizens to register and vote. Again, why is this a thing if non-citizens can vote? Apparently they can vote. Apparently they can vote. Well, yes, I understand it's political theater. Yes, Gene, I understand that. I'm just saying. Apparently they can vote. So, one should know that when understanding the discussion around this whole thing. If you don't know that they can vote, well, then you wouldn't know that, and you wouldn't be able to have a discussion about it. I'm just saying, if you don't know, votes must be validated. So, creative experiments. Do you think that they're validating every vote? Is this person a citizen? Is this person a citizen? Do you think they're doing that? I'm just asking. Like, do you think they're honestly validating all votes? If a non-citizen can vote, do you think they're validating all the votes? Either side. Gene says, Kevin, some places non-citizens can vote in local elections. Okay. Don't Haiti the player, Haiti the game. Bam. Anyways, so, I don't know. Anyways, the SAVE Act, I don't understand, why would they be voting on it if non-citizens can vote? Why would they be voting on this act that requires people to be citizens to vote? Again, yes, it's theater, but apparently non-citizens are voting. When you went to vote in the U.S., they checked your registration. But what I'm saying is you can register without being a citizen. All you need is a photo ID, and you can get a photo ID at the DMV. You don't need to be a citizen to get a photo ID. Non-citizens can get driver's license in California for sure. Anyways. Citizenship is already a requirement to vote. Let's make sure we know all this, but is not always the easiest thing to prove. So there you go. I've heard, I don't know. I've heard a lot of stories of, and I don't know whether all of these things are, I can't document, I'm saying things that I'm just hearing, like peripherally. I hear stories of people, that, you hear people, and there's all kinds of reports of election fraud, right? The mail-in ballots, there's a whole thing about the mail-in ballots and people stuffing the ballot boxes and, whatever. Okay, guys, I gotta go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you. I don't know if I have anybody to thank. Let me make sure that oh crap, my phone died. Well, I can't tell now. Thank you all. I'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific. Y'all are awesome.